It's one of the most notable developments in South Carolina, but not for what they're building, for what they're leaving untouched. And hospitality has always been a central focus.
The thread of hospitality at Palmetto Bluff has always been woven through our history. So the Wilson family purchased Palmetto Bluff in the early 1900s. Mr. Wilson was a wealthy New York banker. In the early 1900s, paparazzi followed the wealthy because they weren't necessarily celebrities. And so for him and his family, they wanted an escape. So he purchased the 20,000 acres of Palmetto Bluff in early 1900s and built a beautiful mansion right here on the village green. His wife was a huge socialite and entertainer in New York City, so to be able to convince her to come to Palmetto Bluff, she needed the same here. Unfortunately, in 1926, the mansion burned down. It burned for 3 days. There are stories of people in Bluffton, sitting on their docks or on their property across the river, watching it smolder and smoke. Mr. Wilson was getting up in years then. He was heartbroken that the house was gone, and so he didn't rebuild. A few years later, he ended up selling. The property eventually ended up in the hands of Union Camp in the 1950s, and they purchased the property for timbering. They were a paper company, so it's a pretty target-rich environment, and they made the decision, once they got here, we're not going to timber it. We're not going to ruin this. So we really have a paper company to thank for saving Palmetto Bluff and conserving the resources and giving us what we see here today. So they built a lodge, which is where the cottages of the hotel live now, right along the river. And every week they would have new guests come in to enjoy time at the lodge. So these were their top clients and customers, dignitaries. I have a great picture of Jimmy Carter hanging outside my office at the Union Camp Lodge. And again, it was about fishing and hunting, but then at the end of the day, everybody coming together and sitting at a table and sharing a meal. We thought about, what is the history and how does that inform our future? So if you're going to create a resort community, you know that hospitality is a part of it, but what are the cornerstones of what makes this place the place that it is? And community connection was core to that. So Palmetto Bluff is 20,000 acres, which is 1.5 times the size of Manhattan. Our vision when we are complete here will be that we will have a series of 3 villages. The second village is underway now. There are homes there, there are amenities there, and we'll slowly start building the road to the third village, which will be called Anson. When development is complete here, we will have no more than 4,000 homes. There's about 700 homes completed now, so we have a long way to go. But even more important than the built environment, what we're not building and what we're protecting is core to our values here. The Palmetto Bluff Conservancy exists to manage the land and the wildlife, and part of our work together with them is to conserve as much of the land as possible. So our goal when we are done is that 10,000 acres, or half of this, will be protected and will never be developed.
It's better to miss you than not to have known you. Let me